Hello everybody. Guess what? I'm going to do something a little different with this video. I actually just got back from watching the new Nightmare on Elm Street, which of course is a remake slash reimagining of the 1984 original. Now first I just want to say that I am a fan of the original series, even the hokey ones from about part 4 on, when Freddy goes from being this menacing dark badass of a character to making jokes such as playing a video game with a power glove in Freddy's Dead, where he says, "Now I'm playing with power." So anyway, I'm not going to delve into the story too much of this. It's basically, everybody knows what it is. You have this guy who was killed by a bunch of pissed off parents some years ago, and was killed and burned, and now he actually tries to get back at them by killing their kids in their dreams. Now, one big departure that they made in this film that wasn't made necessarily clear in the original 84 film was, in the original 84 film, Freddy was basically told to be a child killer. Okay, he went around killing little kids. I don't know, that's how he got his jollies off. In this one, it is made clear, especially in the last about 20-30 minutes of the film. Oh, by the way, there are probably going to be spoilers here. Honestly, don't care, I'm tired. That's going to happen. So you've been warned. Anyway, they make it abundantly clear that he is a child molester. Now, of course, too, Freddy does get killed by the parents. He gets burned up. It doesn't say how he becomes integrated into being able to kill kids in their dreams, but of course that can be left open for other sequels. Now, overall, I would say this was actually a pretty good film. Now, it didn't have the same impact on me as the first one did, simply because when that came out in 1984, I was 5 years old, and of course, being younger at the time, these kind of movies spooked me a little more. Samuel Behr actually makes his directorial debut with this film. For those who don't know who Samuel Behr is, he's mainly done music videos such as Nirvana's Teen Spirit, and also Until It Sleeps, which was a Metallica video, and a couple other ones as well that escape me offhand. Dude definitely knows how to set a scene and how to use ambience and to make things look beautiful on the screen. There are a number of parts in this movie where the transition between the dream world and the waking or the real world are just done fantastically. Some you can see coming, some are a little bit subtle, but the changes are pretty fucking awesome. Especially in one scene where one of the characters, I may not remember all the names, so forgive me, is sitting in class, and then all of a sudden all of her classmates, which you may have seen in the trailer, basically blow up into ash, and of course you see Freddy there at the board. I gotta say, it was done really well. One thing that they did introduce in here that was actually a nice little crease that was pretty cool was the advent of micronaps, which is where once you've been awake for 72 hours, you can all of a sudden be awake or think you're awake, and then as you're walking around or whatever, you'll actually fall asleep and dream for a couple seconds at a time. Now this really comes to a head in a scene where Nancy, the main character, is in a pharmacy trying to get away from Freddy, and it flicks back with her crawling away from him down an aisle between Freddy's boiler room and, of course, the pharmacy that she's in. So that was done pretty cool. Overall, as far as Freddy, the way he looks, I do agree with some of the reviews that I've seen that they do make him look like an actual burn victim. Part of his face kind of reminds me of Two-Face from The Dark Knight, and it definitely looks real, like he was actually on fire, as opposed to just the demon-looking makeup of Robert Englund's Freddy, which, bow to Robert Englund, you know, he'll still always be Freddy. And it did make it seem kind of hard for Jackie Earle Haley, who plays Freddy in this new film, to emote a little more. But I gotta say, even though that I hated the voice at first, especially from the previews, I grew to love it, and it fit the character perfectly. This particular Freddy in this film, and possibly in these series of films, he made Freddy his. He didn't try to copy Robert Englund, even the way Robert Englund played Freddy in the very first Nightmare on Elm Street back in 1984, which was a more dark, sinister character that we also get in this film as well. Now, there are a couple of good shots where you see Freddy clearly, but for the most part, he's in the shadows. There's quick cuts of him, and it builds a little bit more tension because you don't necessarily see him. Now, that brings one other problem to this, is the fact that they do use a lot of jump scares in this film. Now, I can actually forgive them for this because that's the way the original series was and the way slasher films were back in the 80s. So it was kind of like, for me, an homage back to the 80s as far as where they did a lot of, something pops on screen or all of a sudden there's a character walking around and then Freddy just pops out at you like that. So it's a little bit forgiving. Now, while there are some flaws to this film, I definitely recommend seeing it. The ending is left wide open for a sequel. And overall, just a really, really solid slasher film. It's nice to see Platinum Dunes doing this and also making it a rated R film, as opposed to, over the last decade, all these horror slasher films that have been PG-13, which I have fucking hated because it takes some of the fun out of it. And if you want blood and gore, this thing definitely has blood and gore. A couple of funny moments as well. Freddy does put off a couple of one-liners that, yeah, a little hit and miss. Like on one scene, Alice is at the top of the stairs trying to run to get away from him, falls down into the floor, which basically turns into a pool of blood, and Freddy says something like, "Oh, now we're having a wet dream." Something like that. So a couple fall flat, but overall, done pretty well. I will say that if this is how they keep Freddy going in possible future sequels, I'm on board with it. This is a great foundation to build on. I will say I was surprised that they went into his backstory a little bit in this one, whereas in the first series it took a couple of films before they really went back into his backstory as far as how he became Freddy. But I believe they did it pretty well, and really the movie moved along pretty well. It was only about 90 minutes long. It didn't feel too long in any one part. There were a few things that were a little, could have been cut or sliced down or tightened up a little bit, but overall, very solid. So at the end of the day, would I recommend people seeing this film? If you like the original series, most definitely. Now, there's going to be some things that you're going to think are a little hokey, just because they are retreads from the first film. But of course, they do switch it up a little bit, so it's not 100%, shot for shot. And of course, there were some nods to other parts of the series as well throughout the film, which actually I kind of enjoyed. Now, for those of you who don't like this particular type of genre, the slasher genre, I still say go see it anyway, because it's a fun movie to watch. If you go with a friend or a significant other, there's definitely going to be a couple of jumpy points where, your girl's going to possibly jump into your lap. And there are a few groan-worthy parts as well. So, if you were to force me to give this on a scale of, say, 1 to 5 or 0 to 5, which I hate using numbers, I would actually have to give this thing a solid 3.5, just because, it wasn't quite there, and it didn't affect me as much as the first film did. So don't let a 3.5 out of 5 scare you. It's definitely a movie to see, and it's definitely a movie to enjoy. So, anyway, this is Console True signing out. Hope you enjoyed my first movie review. I plan to do more in the future, especially with Iron Man 2 coming out next week. And you Aussie bastards who are watching this, especially if like Infinite Retro, if you watch this, yes, I already know it's out there in Australia. Fuck you, buddy. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, I hope these get better, and I'm just doing movie reviews now, especially on newer summer films, just as a way to break things up a little bit, to break up the hater videos, break up the Street Fighter videos, and the video game stuff in general. What can I say? If I see something I like this, I want to tell people about it and get them out there to see it. So go check it out. Hopefully you guys have a good time. And if you've seen it already, comment down at the bottom. If you have any questions, let me know. Apologize for any of the spoilers that I put in here, but I told you there were going to be spoilers, so you were warned. Anyway, have a great week.